Rise and shine, it's time for D is for drama. I'm your host, Shannon D, and today I am joined by two gorgeous, funny, ballsy, and smart as hell women, hosts of history and pop culture podcast, Right Answers Mostly, what you didn't learn in history class but really wanted to. Please welcome Tess Bellomo and Claire Donald.
Yay! What an intro.
Oh,
Hi,
sweet
Shannon.
angel.
And history is just gossip.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It just
And
is.
we love to gossip on this
We
podcast.
love the gossip. We love the
That's
drama.
all we know how to do really at this point.
Truly. I
Yeah.
mean, Shannon, if you all didn't know, has been on our podcast before. One of our most popular episodes, actually, I'd say.
I know that episode like stays with people
Yeah.
just because it's,
It was tough.
Well, it was
heavier.
about Mary Kay Letourneau, who
Groomed her
fell in
student.
love with her 12-year-old.
yeah, and ended up marrying him and having his children.
Yeah,
you
so-
know.
Not once, but twice.
Well, yeah. Spoiler alert.
So I've had them on as guests as well in the past too. And so we already have, I think, a good amount of crossover listeners because, I mean, both of our podcasts are basically about gossip.
Exactly.
But for those of you that don't know, why don't you guys tell them a little bit about your podcast?
We try to re-examine historical subjects and pop culture subjects through a female's perspective because history and pop culture is not often told that way. So we cover everything from, Titanic, Salem witch trials, Watergate, but we also cover things like America's Next Top Model and Dolly Parton and Kris Jenner and
We know what you guys want.
yeah, exactly.
We know what you need.
And just like storytelling in a way that is gossiping because it's way more fun that way.
Yeah, we're like, we do research and we try to all learn together, but we're not NPR.
No, we're not.
And like we try to bring a little levity and lightness to an educational space.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
way
why the
better
name.
than NPR.
Oh, thank you. Hey,
Way better.
put that on a shirt,
Yeah,
put
literally.
that on a bumper sticker on our review.
We try just to like make it feel safe and still engaging and fun. There's serious moments, but all just like learning together because it's like we're all doing our damn best.
Yeah. And if
at
you
the end of the
do
day.
love
Mhm.
drama, then history is the place for you. It's so crazy. And it's just like, I can't believe
Lots
that
of
actually
drama.
happened. And so many things are so high school.
Oh my God. Everything is.
Yeah.
The
truly.
Royals.
Yes.
Hookups,
Mhm.
all over the map.
backstabbing.
Yes. It's so fun. Like we
'Cause
love
history,
doing
like
that.
back in the day, it really was just about like what date did it happen on. That's the least interesting part of any
Oh my
story.
God. Well, that's like all I remember from high school was
Yes.
just like dates. And you're like, why do I have to memorize dates
locations.
for this test?
No.
Nobody ever asked that when you're telling a story to
No.
somebody. No one ever wants to know when and where it
Yeah.
was.
Like what month was that in? It's like, oh, I don't know.
Like, nor does anyone care.
No.
It's like, give me
No.
the juicy stuff. Like, why did King Henry cut off one of his wife's heads? Oh, because he wanted to like hook up with another girl.
Exactly.
Like, that is crazy.
and when it's told in that
Exactly.
perspective, it's like, this is fun.
Yes,
And it's not scary anymore, like
Yeah.
intimidating.
Actually, that was one of my favorite episodes of yours. Well, it was
That's a
a
good
double
one.
episode, and
Yeah.
I couldn't wait till the next week.
Oh,
Well,
you're so sweet.
when
So
you
you
have
guys
6
should do
wives.
do that again.
Some
I
part
know.
twos.
Some part twos
yeah,
are
because
good.
I was like gearing up for the next one.
Oh, that's good to know.
We're also talking about doing some episodes Taylor's version, like some of our old episodes, like Playboy, and then doing
Oh,
it now
like
that we're even more
updated?
grown.
Yeah, 4
you
years
know?
later, like what we can bring a new perspective
Yeah.
to some of them.
I think so
love
too.
that.
So keep an eye out for it.
Okay, great. Well, just a little backstory with us is that Claire and I met in acting class in 2016. And then our boyfriends, one
Ex-boyfriend.
ex-boyfriend, which is perfect for this subject.
Truly.
Uh-huh.
The two of them were friends and we lost touch. I mean, we weren't even friends really in acting class.
Yeah, you're like,
we didn't
I
know
hated you.
Yeah, I was
actually,
like,
so.
that fucking
Like I've never told you this
bitch.
before.
No, I
That
say it
beautiful bitch.
every single time. I'll never forget this exercise that Shannon did where she was getting ready for a night out and she ate pasta. And our acting instructor was like, that was the smartest thing that you brought pasta in because you're going out. And of course, you're going to eat pasta. before you
Wow,
go."
genius.
I only did it because I was hungry. I wanted to eat in class, you know?
Like,
it was
how
like,
do I
it's dinner
double this
time.
up?
It's time to eat.
Watching you and be like, look at her work.
Oh,
look
you're
at her
like, give her an
go."
Oscar. Give her an Oscar.
I'm just hungry. So then, yeah, our boyfriends, like years later, became friends. And we were like, oh my God, wait, we know each other. And then we became friends.
Yes.
Boom. And
Tess
now we're
is
in the
brought in.
podcasting game.
Thank God. Thank
And
God
Tess
brought
and
in.
Claire are besties. And we are going to get into that story.
Yeah, we are. Actually, yeah, the origin of our friendship.
The origin of it all has a
Origin.
dark history.
And isn't that accurate or appropriate? Mm-hmm.
So the topic for today is my BFF's ex or partners that you want to be their ex.
Oh.
Ooh.
This is also interesting for us too in a different way.
Really is.
We have so much to talk about. And we'll be honest.
Well, I'm not going to hold anything back.
Me either.
All right.
I'm not scared of anybody out there.
Let's get into it then.
Okay.
Claire, if you will please excuse yourself.
Yeah, I gotta go.
So sad to not record together.
We are going to hear Miss Tess's side of the story.
Okay.
Take us back.
I was friends with this man named Tanner, let's
Mhm.
call him. And we edited a little bit of my web series at the time. And we are just good friends. I was in a relationship.
Mhm.
He was in a relationship. And I was like, this guy is just my buddy. Like, did not think of him sexually, really. Like, he was attractive. And I
Mhm.
definitely was like, oh, he's like a handsome guy. But we just didn't think of each other in that way.
Yeah.
Spending a lot of time, late nights, a lot of hours together. I'm starting to go through a little bit of relationship problems where I'm like,
okay.
the end is near, and like I
Mhm.
kind of knew that. He then one day mentions to me, he's like, so I actually broke up with Elizabeth, who was his long-term girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Long distance.
And I was like, what happened? And he was like, I just don't think that we are compatible in the way I thought. Like, I want kids, I want marriage. She doesn't. And, I called her the other night and it's over. And I didn't even think anything of it. I was just like, okay. I was like, so we're both essentially going to be single at the same time.
Mhm.
And then because I really wanted out of my relationship, started inviting him to parties with me and stuff, just as someone to have companionship with.
Yeah.
And then I broke up with my boyfriend. We had a terrible, terrible breakup. He asked me one night, he was like, do you want to go to Claire's birthday party with me? And I was like,
okay.
Claire Donald, I had heard of her.
Yes.
I met her once on set really briefly. And I was like, oh my God, she's so pretty. She's so cool. And I was like, but she doesn't know who I am. And he was like, yeah, she does. And I was like, I don't want to stop by her birthday party. And he was like, it's fine. It's going to be 100, 200 people.
Yeah.
She's very popular,
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I'll go with you. So we end up going together that night. We end up hooking up.
Mhm.
And it was kind of both of us were like, okay, I think maybe subconsciously we've been into each other for a very long time.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've always kind of had a crush on you. And I was like, God, I guess I've always had a crush on you too. We just were both in relationships. We didn't let that side show.
Oh, okay. Do you think you actually were though?
Yes.
Did have a crush on him?
I think I do think I had a crush on him really once I realized my relationship was ending.
Gotcha.
But before that, he was just I would say he was the best guy friend I had had probably since high school.
Okay.
Where we could talk to each other about things. I felt very comfortable with him. We
Mhm.
also were creative partners. So I was
right.
felt very safe with him, and we always bounced ideas off of each other. It was a really nice
How did you
friendship.
meet him?
I worked at a fitness studio that was right next to the coffee shop he worked at.
Oh.
And we were looking for an editor for my web series. And
Gotcha.
someone was like, oh, you know that Tanner edits. And then it all happened.
Gotcha.
So end up hooking up that night. And I was elated. I was like, oh my. And I was also so fresh off a breakup. When you're you need something to distract you.
Yeah.
I was like, thank God that now I have this summer hookup buddy and it's Tanner. And I've always liked Tanner.
Mhm.
And so very excited about that. So we start hooking up. Tanner and I end up going to Vegas together for the weekend.
Mhm.
Definitely was oh, we're going to start dating. In my head, I was
Oh.
oh my God, this is we were having the best time. We had insane chemistry because we did as friends. Then I think when we started hooking up, we were
Oh,
this is
fun.
amazing. And so
Yeah.
I was just on cloud nine. I didn't give a shit about my ex-boyfriend. He was texting me being I see your Venmo history.
Wait, what?
He was like, what the fuck? You're in Vegas with Tanner? And he was always a little jealous of Tanner.
Oh, because he could see you were Venmoing Tanner.
And I was like, fuck, because I had muted him on everything and blocked him, but I forgot about Venmo. So if you're
Yeah.
out there, keep your Venmos.
Yeah. Oh, I
not
keep them
public.
private. Yeah.
Well, that's-
Not that I'm doing anything, but it's just I don't want people to see who I'm
No.
sending money
No,
to.
you don't need
It's
to see that
kinda
you bought
weird.
your friend a cup of coffee.
It's weird that that's even a feature.
I'm also just buy your friend a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
don't it's fine.
You don't gotta go
let someone
halvesies.
treat you.
Yeah.
So he was upset, but I didn't even care. I was just I'm going to marry this man.
Yeah.
In my head, I was this is all just silly drama, and he's love of my life. Then Tanner ends up going back to Arkansas for a film festival that Claire and him had a short film premiering there.
Okay.
And his girlfriend Elizabeth at the time was in Arkansas.
Mhm.
Didn't even think anything of it. I wasn't oh God, he's going back home, and what if he sees her? Because I was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way he had been talking about her had been I am very happy that relationship is over. I think only good things about her, but we just are not compatible for the future.
Yeah.
We don't want the same thing. So I was I'm not worried about this at all.
Mhm.
he's like at the airport. He's like, I had like the best time with you. You were like the most like, I mean, he just was like fluffing me up. And I was like, oh
Wait,
my
and
God.
you drove him to the airport?
Mm-hmm. I
Oh,
drove him to the
I
airport.
heard that you have a thing about driving people to the, is that probably what's probably why? Like, I don't drive anyone to the airport now.
I have very certain like circumstances in which I will.
And we live really close to the airport
I know.
too.
I know. I've gotten better because my fiance is like, you must drive everyone and pick everyone up you know and love. Like it's a love language.
Yes.
And so I've gotten better. But I used to
No,
make
well,
my
you're
friends
scarred.
Uber.
You're scarred
yeah,
now.
exactly.
I see the history,
Thank you,
the villain
Shannon.
origin story.
Thank you. I was scarred. So I drop him off at the airport. We're like making out, and he's like, I can't wait to see you when I get like really just love
The
you,
parking person at the airport
Yeah,
is
it's
like
like-
banging on your
It's like
window.
we get it. It's Vegas. Like this is probably a one night stand. He goes off, and when he goes off, I like drove back to the hotel, and I was just like, I was like, I have a weird feel. Like I wish that he wasn't leaving now for like 4 or 5 days, and I was just like, I feel like a little like sad about it, but it's fine. So basically, when he is gone in Arkansas with Claire, I do not hear from this man.
The whole time.
I do not get a text back from him. I am sending photos. I am sending texts. I am like, I got a haircut. Like all of these
I
things.
guess you don't like it.
Yeah, just like, that's cool. And he finally texts me back after 3 days. And he
Wow.
goes, sorry, it's been like a lot of business deals. And I was like, what?
Okay.
I was like, for your short film at this like film festival? I was like, okay.
In Arkansas.
I was like, okay. I was like, I just like, kind of seems weird. Like haven't heard from him. He's like, no, I'm so sorry. And he's like, oh my God, I'm seeing a picture of your hair now. Like, I love it. Like you look so beautiful. And I was like, okay, we're back. In my mind, I'm like, everything's now fine.
Mm-hmm.
He returns to LA. I ask him if he's back. He doesn't even tell me when he gets back. And he's like, oh yeah, I just like I arrived. And I was like, do you want to go get drinks tonight with like a bunch of mutual friends?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, that's cool. Like, do you think I can invite my coworker who was a girl, which I thought was weird. God, Matt, it's all coming back to me now. It's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
And like all the signs are there. And I was like, yeah, you can totally invite her. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, why can't he just like come hang out with me? We go to the bars that night. We get drunk and he's like holding my hand. And I'm like, things are back to normal. We go back to his house. We hook up. I spend the night. The next morning, he drives me back home and he is like silent in the car. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like we were falling in love. Essentially go home, don't hear from him for, again, 3 to 4 days.
Wow.
And then texts me saying, hey, do you think I can come over and we can have a talk?
Shit.
Comes over, tells me that he and his ex, Elizabeth, are back together after he saw her in Arkansas.
You're kidding.
No.
But they were going to stay long distance?
Yeah, and so they're going to be back to long distance for another, he says, like probably 2 or 3 years until she's done with school.
You're kidding me.
So I was beside myself. Like I was
Can't
just
even
like,
imagine.
what? And then like also my breakup really hit me from the other guy at that point. Like everything just came crumbling down. And so I was like, so you guys got back together when you were there? Because we had just had sex. And he goes, no. We just talked it out. And we just decided after seeing each other that we should get back together. So he's like, it's recent. And so in my head, I'm like, you little dick. Like you guys were together. And I was like, oh my God, you guys were together when we had sex. Like, and also, even if you weren't, how fucked up that you like decided that you're back in love with her and then you still had sex with me.
Yeah.
So I
when you knew I was falling for you.
Yeah, I felt like dirty.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
well, he made you the other woman.
Truly. And I literally had no idea. And I wouldn't have even touched that if he was even thinking about getting back together with her.
Right.
So
I still don't understand the timeline of him being like, well, no, we didn't get. So what? He like ran to the he had sex with you, ran to the bathroom to clean up and be like, okay, now I'm ready to make it official.
I am certain that they had, and I remember seeing photos on Claire's story, and I'll never forget this, of the 3 of them in the back of an Uber.
Oh, shit.
And I remember being like, oh, it looks friendly though. Like maybe they're just finally like, we're meant to be friends and they're all having a reunion. So no, I don't think that was what was happening.
All right. So we're going to stop here and Claire's going to come tell her side.
Exactly. Dun, dun, dun.
All right, Claire.
Okay.
You're in the hot seat.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So I met Tanner when him and his friend, Jason, were introduced to us by my mutual friend from Arkansas. That's not Elizabeth. This was before that. Elizabeth is from Arkansas. She was one of my best high school friends, and she goes to USC. So we're both in LA together. That's great for me. And Elizabeth and I meet Tanner and Jason. I start dating Jason. She starts dating Tanner.
Oh.
Yeah, I break up with Jason, but Tanner and Elizabeth stayed like together. And then it was kind of like a three amigos thing. Like all three of us would hang out all the time.
Mhm.
Tanner and I started doing like creative projects together,
Mhm.
like making short films, music videos, all of that stuff. He would write, I would produce and like act in it. And it was like so fun.
Nice.
And then one day he was like, you need to meet my friend Tess. Like, I think that you guys would like really hit it off. And he said something of like, when you guys meet each other, I feel like I'll never hear from you again. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'd love to meet her because she's like also really making her own stuff.
Self-fulfilling prophecy on his part.
Truly. And so I meet Tess, and it was just like, it felt like we hit it off right away. Like, Tess has always been that person for me that I just connected to her really quickly. We have the same sense of humor. We had like the same drive to make creative projects.
We both love Jessica Simpson.
We bonded over that. We did like a 6-hour drive together when we just were getting to know each other. We bonded over Newlyweds and Bravo and Housewives. We were just like very similar.
Kindred spirits.
Kindred spirits. And I think at this time, Elizabeth had graduated college and moved back to Arkansas. So she had already left LA, which was so sad for me. Her and Tanner were still together.
Mhm.
And it was honestly like nice, especially meeting Tess at this time, that it's like I just lost one of my best friends in LA. So it's like felt like, oh, here's like another really great friend.
Mhm.
So then Tess comes to my birthday. We start hanging out more, and I start dating another one of Tanner's friends, Edward. They end up
Oh.
living together.
Mhm.
Tess, Tanner, and I were like, we should all start working together.
Mhm.
So we kind of like throw around the idea of like production companies together. We start working together creatively. And I start hearing from Elizabeth less and less. And we were like super close. And we were in this group in high school of like 6 of us girls who were super close. She was also really close to one of my other friends that she had ghosted. And like when she moved to LA, and that had always been hard for me because I felt
Oh.
kind of in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that just seems like so weird and unlike her to just like ghost someone. But that started kind of
Crazy.
happening to me with
Okay.
Elizabeth too. Like
This is a pattern.
yeah, I'm
So
starting
do you
to hear
think
from
it was about Tanner?
well, I don't know because
Okay.
I, at this time, didn't know that anything was going on between Tanner and Tess. Like, I thought that we were all just like friends, hanging out, having fun. And then at one point, she wasn't talking to me at all. And that was like the point that Tess told me Tanner and I are like hooking up. And I think I remember her being like kind of scared to tell me,
Mhm.
which like rightly so because
Yeah, it was your friend's ex.
yeah. And like at the time though, I remember like this might say something about me, but being like, great. Like, I don't know. I was just kind of like, oh, this could be really fun.
You're my new best friend. It
Yeah.
makes sense that you just slide in and start
I
hooking
know,
up with
literally.
Tanner.
It's like sounds like it's really awful towards Elizabeth. That God, I wish I could have more parties in here to be like, no, she truly will ghost people and like
Yeah.
out of nowhere. Oh, I did go back to a film festival with him in Arkansas. It was for a
Mhm.
music video, and he definitely was not doing any business deals. I'll tell you that.
Ah.
But I broke up with Edward, who was one of his best friends, and they were like starting to live together at that time. Then Tanner starts being really weird to me because I broke up with Edward.
So when you went back to Arkansas,
Yeah.
Elizabeth and Tanner got back together.
I guess so because like I don't remember that. Like I
Okay, so it wasn't in your face at all. The three of you were hanging out when you went back home, but they were
surely
just
if
friends.
they were hanging out, I'm sure that they were together. I don't think I would be like, oh, you guys are just like hanging out as friends.
But at this point, did you know Tess was hooking up with him?
I don't think so. I remember having a conversation with Tess a lot later in the years, I feel like, being like, oh, I had no idea you guys were hooking up at that time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Which,
So it
and then
came
I
out
look back
later.
and then I'm like, oh, well, that may be why Elizabeth stopped talking to me.
Yeah, because she probably thought you were in on it.
Yeah. And she probably was like, wow, she's hanging out, which like I could see from her perspective of being like, one of my best friends is hanging out with my boyfriend and this new hot girl who's coming around all the time. Like, I would not be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And the mature thing would be to be like, hey, why are you ghosting me? But hey, that's what 22 is for. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
Mine
That's what
was
we do then. All right, should we get Tess back in?
Yeah.
Get on in here.
fill in the holes because like I feel like I just had no idea what was really going on at this time anyway.
Well, it sounds like you were just in the dark.
I was.
Okay, so he breaks up with me or whatever, and I did not really want to talk about this with Claire because I think like looking back on it, I assumed that she knew like everything.
I think that this was not like a big thing in my life
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was
You were in
going
the dark.
on. Yeah, I remember clearly like Elizabeth coming to LA and not telling me that she like that was a big
Being
thing to me.
confused why your friend from home isn't talking to you
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. And just being like, I just like these are like we're like the three amigos. You know what I mean?
But you know what I just remembered?
What?
When he told me this, he was like, we're getting back together. He said, and she's coming in 2 weeks.
So do you think that's when she came and she didn't tell me?
No, you guys all
Oh.
hung out this time because you went to the east side and you were wearing that girl shirt.
power
Yeah,
shirt.
with flip-flops.
Yes.
And I remember zooming on those photos being like, will Claire ever love me like she loves Elizabeth? Like I then was just feeling like I was like, I'm losing everyone in my life. That I
Our
love.
love stands the test of time,
It
and
really
this
does.
proves it.
But I just
Wow.
felt so, I was like, God. And then, because we were getting so close by
Yeah.
then, but I was like, I can't talk to Claire about how this is breaking my heart. Like, I was just like so sad. But I was like, she has, that's her best friend. Of course, she's not going to be like, I'm not going to hang out with her. Or like, I understood what was happening, but I felt so like sad.
Yes.
And so then Tanner and I decided that we should still work together and be friends.
Okay.
And this
wow.
came from
Big of
me just
you.
wanting to be with
That's
him.
what I'm like. We've all been in
Oh,
that
yeah,
situation
yeah,
where you're like, I will do
totally.
anything to stay close.
And you were
So-
like, I'll just reel him back in kind
Yeah.
of thing.
So-
So did
Yes.
I know? And did I know that you guys were hooking up in Vegas?
I think you did, but I remember not saying like details. I thought that you just assumed because we were going to Vegas together.
Yeah.
I thought I had told you like we had kissed at your birthday. No, we had hooked up after. But
Yeah.
like I thought
Also, I think that it was like, and this, I think D's for drama. We should be like really authentic about where we were. Probably I was like not being the best friend to Elizabeth too,
Yeah.
and I was 22, and also
Totally.
she wasn't being a great friend to me. So I probably was like,
I
Oh,
think
wow.
I remember you
which is not okay. I would never do that today.
yeah.
I remember texting you like after Tanner and I had ended it, telling you just so like you were aware. And I remember you said like something very sweet along the lines of like, I'm sorry that you're hurting. I'm trying to stay as like out of it as possible
Yeah,
because
it's
of
so
Elizabeth.
hard to navigate.
But
that
like
stuff.
I'm still here for you. And I just remember being like, okay, I'm gonna talk about this with someone else because like I don't
Yeah.
want to make her feel weird.
Totally.
And so you guys had all like hung out. I had texted Tanner after like a week and I was like, hey, like after thinking about everything, I do think that we should still work. I mean, we only did projects together. And so in my mind, I also was having a hard time being like, so now I'm
Yeah,
out
to
of a
start
producer and editor.
over.
And so
but
but also
used him for his editing like
Right.
way past when
I mean, he would edit for free.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were like, well,
That's clutch.
And I trusted him in that way. And so, but I also was like, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to get him back. And literally, and this ruined 2 years of my life because I like was so like in love with him
Mhm.
and would not date anyone else and just was like consumed by him. We saw each other every single week and weekend. And so it made it very hard to move on.
And he's still in this long distance relationship.
So he's still in this long distance relationship. We're editing together one night and Elizabeth calls and I can see the FaceTime on the screen. And both of us were just like silent. And I was like, Tanner, does she know like I'm here? Like I'm
Yeah.
here every Friday night.
Oh my God, a Friday night? That's intimate.
And we would extend the time. Let's be honest. We'd end
Yeah.
up drinking and like then going out in the balcony and smoking. And so I was just like, does she know that I'm here? And I think we still had feelings for each other. I mean, I did. And I think
Yeah.
he still did too.
Mhm.
And he was like, yeah, she knows that you come over to edit. And I was like, does she know that we had sex? And I was
Yeah.
like, I just need to know this. And he was like, so I told her that when we were broken up, we had kissed drunkenly once.
Gotcha.
Never
Wow.
just a kissing
So
drunkenly.
then in my mind, I'm like, I am the other woman.
Yeah.
Like I did not know this. And then this started this like weird saga of us like pushing it, I feel. And I feel like you would kind of like leave and be like,
Truly. And then I'm fully aware that they are like hooking up, doing their thing, whatever. And I was
well,
kind of like,
we weren't actively hooking up at
but
this
there was
time.
like tension.
We wanted to be.
And I was-
But then things got a little bit weird because, and I don't even know if I would tell you this kind of stuff. We'd go out with like a big group of people and we'd like always end up sitting together. And this like one night he like put his hand on my thigh and was like squeezing it under the table. And I was like, and that was like the first breakthrough of like, oh, we're not just flirting. Like you're now
Yeah.
coming on to me.
I don't think that you would tell me this.
I know.
stuff.
Cause I was like, he is with her best friend from high school.
Yeah.
Like, how can I like say this? And also then I felt kind of gross, but I was like, but I love him.
But he's my
But Daddy, I love
husband.
But Daddy, I love him. And I was like, okay, we're so close. I was like, he is going to realize that Elizabeth is not the one. I am like, you belong with me. I was like,
Mhm.
I've just been in front of you the whole time.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so then one night I was over there, he was having a party and we like went outside and I was like, and he was leaving for Mexico with Elizabeth the next day.
Oh my God.
fuck.
And I was like, Tanner, I was like, why are you going? I was like, we have feelings for each other. You were literally just squeezing my leg the other night.
It's like a movie.
I was like, I would never do anything, but like, I was like, you need to pick. You need to choose between me or her.
Mhm.
And if you go to Mexico, I'm going to assume that you have chosen and that we should like really have clear boundaries. And he's like, I'm going to make a decision in the next 2 days.
Can you imagine your
What?
boyfriend talking to a woman like this? I also just remembered when she was here and we went to Silver Lake, that trip was so awkward. I barely saw her the Silver Lake trip. And then we went to Waterfront one time and I was like, why is she being like this to me? Like, I don't know who
She's
this
being
person
cold.
is.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So then I wake up on Sunday morning and I used to look at her stories from a stalker account.
Wow.
Classic.
Claire's like, I'm finding out so much I didn't want to know. He never posted. And so I was like, I need to see what's going on. I see that they're holding hands with like a ticket and it says like Cabo. And I'm like, I'm going to go throw up. And I was just like, but I couldn't, my self-esteem maybe at the time, I could not see like, this man is not into you then.
Yeah.
You deserve better. You also should not be trying to pursue someone that has, I felt like I had I deserved to be with him because I don't know. It was like weird.
I truly
I know
forgot
what you
about the
mean.
Cabo
You know?
trip. I remember seeing that and then being like, I don't feel like they're really in a relationship anymore. And this feels strange that they're going.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, and what he had told me too about certain things about the relationship, I was like, "Why are you going on vacation then together?"
Yeah.
Like, I was just very confused.
So
So-
what happened in the 2 days?
So they went to Cabo. I was like,
What, he was gonna break up with her on the trip?
I know. And so then he gets back. Our friend group planned on going to Lake Arrowhead together.
Mhm.
He sends me a text being like, "Hey, I don't think I should go. Money's real tight right now." Like, he never said the actual thing, like
Yes.
ever. He
It was always
so-
another excuse.
so passive aggressive.
I also feel like it's so important to say what kind of person Tanner is. He's always the guy like, if you guys watch Vanderpump Rules, like the Schwartz, where he's like, I'm a nice guy. Like,
Oh,
even though he's doing
puppy dog.
destructive things,
Yes.
he's like, but I'm nice.
But he's like, his personality's like lovable Labrador
Yes,
kind
that's
of thing.
exactly
he was
it.
very attractive.
Yes.
At the time.
He was.
We'll
was.
just say that.
Yeah.
He was. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's adorable."
No, when I first
Yeah.
met Tanner and Jason, I wrote in my journal, I was like, Jason is going for me, but his friend Tanner is way hotter than him.
Really?
Even though Jason is
Okay, I need to see
really
pics.
hot.
now Jason is like at the peak of his hotness.
Yeah,
Oh,
truly.
okay.
Call me Jason when you break up with your girlfriend.
They're all listening to this. Like, you guys are terrible people. True.
Hey, whatever.
But yeah, so he then would always skirt around it. Never acknowledging, hey, I know I told you that I was going to decide between you or my girlfriend. No acknowledgement. We weren't working on a project for a while at that point. So things did simmer down. And I then was like, I must move on. I was like, I must move on. God damn it.
Oh, so he never got back to you about those 2 days in Mexico.
Never
he
got
just
back-
skirted around it.
Never got back to me about anything. It was painful. And then we still worked next to each other at this time.
Yeah.
And so
At the coffee shop /
yes. And so we definitely had distance. Like, you could tell that we just were like, okay, we shouldn't be texting. He'd come by and like try to be nice. And I would just be like,
Mhm. I had said earlier that I had dated Tanner's roommate and one of his really good friends, Edward.
Yes.
I had broken up with Edward, and Edward called me a monster and like really did not take it well, literally just for breaking up with him. Like, okay, and he did not take that well. So he decided that he hated me, but I was still really good friends with Tanner and also with Tess.
and we edited at their house.
Their house that was also Edward's house. And so then
Oh.
Edward was like, which now looking back, I understand more. But he was like, she's not allowed in our house, all that stuff. We're like, well, this is complicated because we're business partners and friends. And then Tanner started treating me poorly.
But then Tanner was like, oh, then I think the way that we can work around this is just having Tess come over to edit because Claire's not welcome.
Which is also manipulative. And so then he like
so
started.
then it was getting you alone with them.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, also like Tanner and I were really close friends.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like,
he
you're
was
not
like your brother.
Yeah, that's how it felt. And I was like, wow, you're not sticking up for me and our friendship at all.
Mhm.
Then there was this barbecue and they were like, well, Claire's not allowed, which again, I could see now
Oh.
because Edward was also hosting the barbecue, even though I literally did nothing but break up with him. Then we bullied our way into going to that barbecue.
Well, because I was like, I'll do anything to see him. I'm day drunk and I'm right around the corner. So I was like, yeah, it's fine, Claire. Just like come.
Yeah.
So I was
Uh-huh.
being selfish.
So we all rolled up to
Okay.
the barbecue and no one was happy to see us there. I'll tell you that.
it felt like
Really?
middle school. Like everyone was like, like you could just tell that everyone was talking shit about us.
Yeah. And so then Tess and I have like one of our first and only fights because she was like, how could you be friends with Elizabeth?
I was like, why does everyone like Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's what it was.
I was projecting. I was like, tell me, like, why is he in love with her? Why are you such good friends with her? I never even like seen like a video of her. Like she, in my mind, she was like evil.
Yes.
And I just needed to know why you loved her.
And
but I was not kind about it.
Yeah. And my friend from high school who she ghosted was also there with me. And she's like, listen, I'm not even friends with her anymore, but I promise she's not like an evil person.
Yes, she is. She's ruining my life.
And then I start crying at this barbecue that we weren't even invited to.
We're just crying on the steps, and all these people are like, we hate these women.
Oh my God, they need to leave.
Like, actually. And we did eventually, but you got to make your mark on the world, you know? And like, that was our way to do that. So,
yeah. So then this was like a time when then
Wow.
things had to start simmering down a little bit after that. I think like everything was just so dramatic. And I was like, I need to move on. He's clearly not leaving this woman. Then I started dating Claire's friend, which was a fun time because I really did like start falling for this other guy, and it really helped me get over Tanner.
Mhm.
But then I run into Tanner a few months later, and I was like, how are you? And he was like, I'm good. Like, I do like miss our friendship. And I was like, yeah. I was like, same. And he was like, you're seeing
Mike.
And I was like, I am. And he's like, that's actually like a really good match. Like, I'm happy for you. And I was like, how's Elizabeth? And he was like, we broke up.
Wow.
And then I was like,
Interesting.
I forget about Mike.
So then, we started hooking up again.
Oh shit. What happened to Mike?
Mike was
casual.
and Mike made it very clear he did not want to be with me,
Oh,
but we were
okay.
very, we were like drunken hookups. But I was like, I also want to be with him. This was a problem I had. And I've dealt with this since in therapy. And now I'm a happily almost married
She's
woman.
getting
She's
married
getting
in
married
a
in 1 month.
But honey, we had to commit to some therapy.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, Tanner and I would hook up during the summer. He'd do the same thing. Ladies, you can't change a
Wow.
man.
No, you
can't.
can't.
He'd
No, you
ghost me.
cannot.
And at this point, I was talking very openly
Yeah.
to you
At this point,
about it.
Elizabeth wasn't in the picture. I was not happy with Tanner and the way that he was treating me. So I was like, tell me all.
And then one
Oh.
day, Claire, I remember we were cleaning up after a party, and I was like, I did hook up with Tanner last night. And you just like stopped like with like a broom, and you were just like, I really wish that like this wasn't still a thing.
Wait, really?
And I remember feeling like a pit.
I don't remember this at
And
all.
I was like, are you mad at me? And you're like, I'm not mad. You're like, but you deserve better than this. And you're like, look at the patterns that he has been doing to you. Because I think like you then started realizing.
Oh, wow.
And you were just like, this is not healthy for you, Tess. And I was like, but I really, and you're like, I know you like him, but like it's not. And literally after that, we hooked up one more time, and then he completely ghosted me, and we never spoke again.
Wow.
Wow. I don't. Good for you,
No,
Past Claire.
I
I
know.
needed to hear it. Claire gave me some tough love, which I needed, and then that was kind of the end.
Amazing. Yeah, although he did have to ghost you, though. Would you have ever?
No, I remember he ghosted me, and I even booty called him like 3 weeks later.
That's what I'm saying.
all
Would
been
you
there.
ever have
I would have
walked away?
Never.
I don't know.
She was drinking that.
Not never. I would have taken me another, because then it was COVID, and Lord knows I would have really wanted his,
Oh,
like,
true.
it would have taken me probably another year. Like, I just in my mind was like, I get along with him better than any guy I've ever. And we did have like really good chemistry.
Yeah.
Like when it was good.
The good sides of him too were again like so sweet and like how could you not like that guy? And then you're like, ooh,
Exactly. It's Shorts. It's Tom Shorts.
It's
Tom
literally Tom
frickin'
Schwartz.
And now it's just like crazy even look back on it, being with someone I love who loves me, who like
Right.
is in a healthy relationship, that you're like, oh my God, I thought that this was normal. But I
No,
was
it's not normal.
25 to 27.
Yeah.
Totally.
I
You
thought
have to go through that stuff.
Yeah.
You have to. And I learned a lot about myself during it too.
It really is hard seeing friends be with guys that suck, though.
Oh my God.
I mean, like, you guys have seen it?
It is really challenging.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's my business? What's not my business?
Right.
Where can I step in? 'Cause you have to
Exactly.
be very careful about it, especially when they're still with them. But
Yes.
then once they break up, it's kind of like you still have to be a little bit
Yeah,
careful
'cause you never wanna
can't go full on
Make
because-
them feel bad.
And what if they? Yes. And then also, what if they get back together?
Yeah.
There's a little period of time there where you can't be like, yeah, he fucking sucked, unless he/she, whoever, did them really dirty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. And just know that, like, if they do get back together, like, you just have to live with that. But I do think be gentle with your girlfriends if they did just break up with their shitty boyfriend or girlfriend, because it's like, I had the same, because my ex-boyfriend was really shitty and I knew none of my friends liked him. And, like, we had an event, like, where everyone was drinking and then everyone just started going in on how much they did not like him.
It was
And
terrible.
it's hard because you still feel responsible for that person. So you also have to be
Yes.
delicate and being like, because I was like, listen, I know I didn't like him either, you know, and so it's like I just don't want to hear
This
from
is when you were
everyone
still
else
together or after?
after.
All right, well, let's get into a listener write-in that has to do with this. One of my good friends, Sophie, was also good friends and roommates with a girl, Carrie, and was dating a guy, Jake, for several years. Sophie and Carrie would spend a lot of time with Jake and his friends. When Sophie and Jake broke up, Carrie chose Jake and his friends over Sophie, and she moved out of the apartment when the lease was up a month later. And what's even crazier is that I don't think Jake and his friends were that close with Carrie. It was more she was there because of Sophie and they were fine with it. I took the spot in the apartment and Carrie didn't even clean up before she left. One of our mutuals was suspicious that Carrie and Jake may have started dating at some point years later, but it's hard to tell as she has a private account and we all unfollowed her. Sophie and I are still super close and we don't talk to Carrie anymore. Bye-bye, Carrie.
Bye-bye,
Ooh,
Carrie.
bye-bye.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
I can, because I feel like this happens so often. Actually, it's really annoying.
Like, if it's you have a story?
You
I
wanna
mean-
talk?
Maybe, I
It's
don't
for
know.
premium.
I've been in this situation with Tanner and Tess, kind of. I became a lot closer to Tess. Tess and our friendship is something that's so special to me. This ended up happening with Tess and Mike as well. And like, I was friends with Mike. I had known Mike for
Wait, who's Mike?
the guy that she started hooking up with
Oh,
after.
yeah, yes.
When they started breaking up, I was like, I'm not going to be as close to Mike anymore because I've seen kind of the shitty ways that he's like strung Tess along. Even though I introduced them, I consider Mike a
Oh,
good
okay.
friend. But to me, and the same thing with Tanner, like I didn't introduce him, but I consider Tanner a good friend. When I started seeing
Yeah,
this
and you knew him
behavior,
before.
there's nothing to me like my female friendships.
Mhm.
The male straight friends are kind of like sprinkles that it's like you don't really need them, but like sometimes it
Yes.
can look cute, but like the
It can
substance
look
is like
cute.
underneath that.
Totally.
And that's so it's crazy to me. Even if you are close with the guy, to me, there's nothing like my female friends. And I'm just always going to lean in that direction.
I agree, Claire.
I know. I said back to her, I was like, all of that for straight male friends.
What do you get
Who
out of a
needs
straight male
them?
friend?
Like and also there is always some sort of tension. If it's a single straight, if it's a
I don't
single straight
know.
male and you're a single, and if the guy is hot, I don't know.
If you're attracted to each other, sure. But I have a lot of straight white, or
But
not
you're
white,
in
sorry.
a-
Sorry. Straight male.
It's always we're just like straight. You're like going to straight line.
Just
We
like
hate
the
'em.
next thing to
Okay,
follow.
but Shannon, you're in a relationship.
No, but even before then.
Mm.
Maybe I'm just like
'Cause-
not really a guy's girl.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you can hang with the guys.
I hooked up with all my guy friends, and I have
Yeah.
none left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day. Now that I'm in a relationship, I don't really like. I still hang out with some of my straight guy friends, and we work creatively together. I
Okay.
guess is mainly. But I don't know. Back in the day, I definitely used to, and there, at least on my part, there was no sexual.
I was gonna be
tension.
like, these men were probably all like just waiting for you to give them a certain. Like, did you ever hook? You never hooked up with Brooke, did you?
No,
He,
no,
he probably wanted to.
I don't think so. We were very the face. You guys just gave me the exact same face.
I just think like
Tessa and I know, like, I went to college and he was my best friend, though. Like, we were like, I always relate, it was Brooke, Jeff, and I, and the three of us were like best friends. And I always relate us to like Harry Potter. I've told you this before.
Oh,
Where I was like
cute.
Hermione.
Yeah.
Brooke was
okay.
Harry. So, like, we were very like platonic. Ron and I were, Jeff and I were like, had the more sexual tension where we'd hook up sometimes.
Oh, okay.
And like,
okay.
you know, so Brooke and I were very much like, at least on my part, like, and I never ever thought that he was into me that way, though. I really don't think
I just
so.
think a lot of times they're only men. You know what I mean? Like who can blame them?
I'm not saying he wouldn't fuck me.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's
but-
there's different levels, I think. Like sometimes it's like, oh my God, they're actually in love with each other. Sometimes it's like, if we were drunk, maybe we would. And then I think it's always an idea in the back of their mind, having like
You don't think that,
having
like,
a gorgeous
Shannon, this man has pictured you naked. Sorry to say.
They all, I
mean,
think I truly believe they
but
all
I don't
do
think
once.
he didn't like have feelings for me.
Yeah.
No, I think that I don't think that you have to have feelings,
But
but I
they
think
would if
there's
they
always
could.
like tension. There's some
I
sort of
suppose.
tension.
Yeah.
you know?
Right in my one
Yeah.
straight male listener.
Yes. Well,
Let us
also,
know.
I'm
I'm
curious.
curious.
I've asked my fiance this, and we differ on it. Like he has a lot of girlfriends that he's like, I've never even like wanted to kiss them.
Yeah.
But and I'm like, but yeah, most of my guy friends in my 20s, we had at least one night.
Yeah.
Of
Not
even
yeah,
a
it's not to
makeout
say
or-
I didn't hook up with some of my platonic friends. I
Yeah, yeah.
definitely did, but like alcohol was involved.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like everyone's like in love with all of their girlfriends, but I
Yeah.
think just like straight men
They would.
They
are
do
very
it.
sexually driven,
That's
and
true.
they're like, I definitely
That's
do
true.
that.
And
Yeah.
it will never be the same.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Yeah,
If you
no,
choose to
never
do
will.
that.
Well, I did do a poll on Instagram, and one of them was related to what you were just talking about. If your best friend and their partner break up and you consider them a friend, do you A, stop being friends, B, stay friends regardless, or C, only stay friends if you knew them before? So what you were just saying about how like you knew Tanner, you knew Mike before, but because of how you saw their behavior.
Listen, it changed things for me, and
Yeah.
it was hard. Like I wasn't it wasn't a situation where I was immediately like, fuck you, I'm done being friends with you, but it changed our friendship, and I'm not friends with Tanner anymore. I
Mhm.
hardly see and talk to Mike. I just like never had the deepness that I did with Tess. And so I think it's so circumstantial on these things. However, more times than not, I'm going to be friends with my girlfriends, even if I was friends with a guy. Like I'm just going to be closer.
Mhm.
And there is like kind of sides that you do take.
Well, also with like, not even with Tanner, but with Mike, that was less, we weren't in like a serious relationship. And so I never expected Claire to be like, I'm not going to invite him to this, or I'm not like, she definitely, I could see herself, like I could see her pulling away and like distancing herself. And like, I felt that. And I was like, that's like a really like nice thing that like I'm seeing. But I think if we were in a serious relationship for like years, I do think there's like a difference in, and he like fucked me over. I don't know. I see it
Yeah.
more like for you even like I would, well, I can't use that as an example because we weren't friends with your ex.
So Max and Corey are still friends, who is Claire's ex.
Yeah.
And Max and I have this running joke, like if ever I mention I'm hanging out with you, he'll go, "Oh, Claire, you mean Corey's ex?" And I'm like, "Corey, you mean Claire's ex?"
That's right.
That's
Sick.
right,
So,
honey.
Max, we can talk later.
Yeah. Just like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's funny.
And it's
That's
just like
really
a
funny.
it's just like a running joke that we have where we like chosen sides, but
Yeah, yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
we did not at all. I mean, I did, but
Yeah, obviously.
I think that it's like if they did them really, really dirty, but it's like if you're friends beforehand, I can see not cutting them out unless they like really did them dirty and it changed your opinion of them, like you were saying. Or if you're family or friends, like family friends,
Yeah.
it's like there's definitely circumstances where I see. But if you were just friends via the person, what are you doing?
What's even the point?
Yeah.
Like this Carrie character, she reminds me of Carrie from Sex and the
Oh,
City,
no,
honey.
talk about it.
Kidding.
I personally would never continue a friendship, even if like I had no, like, and that's happened to me in college before where I hooked my guy friend up with a girlfriend. He ended up being just an asshole. It wasn't like horrific, but it wasn't great. And I was just like, I don't look at you the same way anymore. And I think it's just hard for me. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't want to continue that relationship. And I always will, even if it's not cheating or lies, I
Yeah.
will just take my girlfriend's side.
Mhm.
I will say, just like, I think it's just something that you said this to me once because I was in a situation recently where I hooked up with a guy who was, my girlfriend introduced me to this guy. We started hooking up. He ghosted me. And like, I feel like he's not really a trustworthy person. I've
Mhm.
never asked her to take sides. I've never asked her to not have him around even or like to speak. I'll say some things every now and then because how could you not in front of her? But I understand they had a friendship before me
Yeah.
and it's not fair for me to ask. However, I do think it's something where it's like if you see your guy friends treating women badly, I think that's just something to take note on. And that's like their character. Even
Yes.
if that's their dating character, that represents something.
Yeah, and that's how they could treat you as
Exactly.
well in a different way.
You can't
but
compartmentalize it of like, oh, that's just how he treats women. It's like, that is how he treats women. That should
Yeah.
be the biggest deal
And
of it all.
again, he did something that I thought was like really disrespectful. Whereas it wasn't him being like, hey, I'm just not into this anymore. I'm sorry. I know we've had fun. Cause that's
Right,
also
right,
different.
right.
Who can blame? Like, if you're just not into someone, you're
If
not into
if
someone.
you're honest and communicative and mature,
Totally.
Yeah, then
there's a way to do it respectfully.
Exactly.
Yes. And then that would be so unfair. I do think if someone was just like, I'm not feeling this anymore, to tell your girlfriend, like, you can't be friends with him anymore because he wasn't interested. That's not fair.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's,
Like,
actions show who. If someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
Actions are all you need to take note and then be like, oh,
yeah.
okay,
So
There
I
you
think
go.
it's very circumstantial.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like,
I'm out.
Well, let's see what the listener said. 22% said stop being friends. 10% said stay friends regardless. And then 68% said only stay friends if I knew them before.
Oh, that's actually like kind of, oh, wow. Okay.
I don't think that's so crazy. Because again, I think it's circumstantial. Like if you
Yeah.
guys broke up because you weren't in love anymore, that's different than breaking up
Yeah.
because someone was cheating.
And like I
or-
was saying before, like if it's a family friend or a
Yeah, that's
family
true.
member, it is really difficult to like walk away from those relationships.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also did another poll. If your best friend and their partner break up, do you A, unfollow them on social media, B, stay following to keep informed, or C, stay following because it's not my drama?
Well, everything's our drama. Oh my God.
Yeah, literally.
That's why we're on D is for drama.
Uh-huh.
I think it depends again too. Because like I voted on that one and I said stay following to keep up.
I'm a Taurus, so I said A.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I'm like, it shows a sign of loyalty to me.
Yeah, I again think it like depends on the circumstances.
Yeah.
Because like I'm still following
Oh,
Tanner.
yeah.
You know, because I like want to see what's happening.
No, because I'm thinking of like real breakups. Of,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you were officially together.
Oh, yeah.
So
cheated.
yeah.
Especially even real breakups, and I don't really know that like I know them through like if our friend Allison broke up with her boyfriend right now, then I would unfollow him on social
Right,
media because I
right.
would be like, well,
Yeah,
you're
with
not
like
in my life
with like
anymore.
Tanner and Mike,
Right.
like I followed them for a long time too.
Yeah.
Well, one of the listeners wrote in saying, stay following if it wasn't bad blood, but mute stories. And I agree with that. I was going back like through the archive of like my best friend's exes, and there are definitely a couple that I still follow, but like they don't even show up on my algorithm. But it was like a pretty amicable split
Yeah.
between them. So like it didn't even cross my mind. But for the ones that did my friends dirty, like I take the biggest pleasure in going and like, boom,
Amazing
unfollowing.
feeling.
It's the best feeling. Like right now, one of my friends is going through a really bad breakup, and I wanted to go in and just like unfollow him.
Yep.
But he deleted his Instagram, and I was so mad because I was like, I didn't even get the
Did
satisfaction.
he delete his Instagram or did he block you?
No, I think he deleted it, but he
Oh.
blocked all of us actually. Now that I'm
That-
thinking
it-
about
perhaps.
There's one way to find
Well,
out.
get out your phone,
true.
Claire.
It's always a delicate thing because then you're like, has everyone else unfollowed them yet?
Oh, well, that's the other thing. Someone else wrote in saying, I'm going to do whatever my BFF wants me to do. And that's a good point too.
I think that's a good.
Ask your friend, like what, because sometimes, actually, I remember my friend Horace, you guys know him?
Love you, Horace.
He was like, I don't want you guys, like, I don't want a hate train going his way. Like, I want, like, you can stay following him, whatever. And like, great. Like, I'm going to respect your wishes because I'm going to do whatever you want to do. Because
Right.
sometimes the unfollowing, like, makes it more dramatic.
Because then you'll get a text from them being like, wait, so now, you know,
Now
it
everyone's
can
unfollowing
perpetuate
me.
the drama.
Yeah, 100%.
But
And
I like it.
I know, but it should always be in the interest of your friend. So like
Yes.
following their lead. It's so crazy to me that anyone would stay friends with their friend's ex if they were not friends before. Even if they were friends before, again,
Even
it's
if-
going to change the friendship.
Truly.
But like,
This
And
Carrie
I feel like
girl.
you inevitably, though, with time, you can't do both. I actually feel very strongly about that. Like, even if it's like a year of being like, yeah, we're still kind of hanging out. Human nature is to pick one and to prioritize one person in a breakup. And like, I just feel like it's so rare to be like, I still have both of them in my life
yeah,
and I can make it work. It's like, especially when someone gets into a new relationship and then that person's like, well, now I feel kind of bad hanging out with their new boyfriend and the
well,
ex.
I
Yeah.
felt that way so much with Mike, and like I still feel awkward with that. Even though Tess is getting married next month, does not care about Mike
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
Yeah.
It still feels like this person, and this is like why I don't get it because you're like, I know when I'm hanging out with this person hurt my best friend so badly. I feel gross about hanging out with you.
Yeah, it's just a feeling.
Well, two of my best friends. So one of them was my sister's like bestie, and then the other one was mine. And they ended up getting together kind of on their own. Like we introduced them, but then they just like hit it off. And there were these two guys. And they were together for a really long time, like lived together, full-blown relationship, but it was pretty toxic. And then they broke up, but it was like we both, like my sister and I, like both just stayed close with both of them because they were our friends.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like
And-
family friend.
And because they kind of were like more my friend and more my sister's friend, I guess the drama didn't really like get too involved but neither one of us were like taking sides or whatever. And they're cool
Yeah.
now, but I don't know. What do you think about that? Like they were just our friends.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of people that my ex introduced me to, if that's like what you kind of mean by that.
Mm.
Is that what you mean?
Oh, well, that's different because we were already friends with both of them separately.
Yeah, separately.
But yeah, when you kind of like, 'cause that happens a lot too, where who
I'm
gets them in
closer.
the divorce, you know?
You got everyone
who
in the
him
divorce.
Let's go over to the poll results. Unfollow on social media was 41%. Stay following to keep informed was 45%. And stay following because it's not my drama, 14%.
Not my drama. It's just like a little wild.
I've never had that
know.
feeling about anything in my life.
Yeah, truly. Not to generalize, but here we are. Like when women try to stay friends with the guys, even though they hurt their friends, it's like almost looking just for male validation.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the deeper issue of why you feel like you want to?
And
I feel
that
like
you're-
just ask
and-
yourself that.
Yeah.
And it was like the friends too. So she probably wanted to stay in good with like the cute boys and go partying with them and wanted to be seen as like the cool girl.
That happens
Yep.
to this day.
Yeah.
Sure
Happens
does.
more than you think.
Mm-hmm.
That's another story for another
For
day.
for
Have
another
us back
podcast.
on, maybe in a couple months.
Yeah, truly.
Once
truly.
it's
Oh, it's currently happening.
Yeah.
Really? All right, you'll have to tell me off the
Yeah, I
pod
will
then.
because you were there the other night too. So
Oh shit.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Juicy. All right, well, let's get into a story, shall we?
Yes.
My boyfriend Blake, 25M, and I, 25F, have been together for 3 years. Before we dated, we used to be coworkers at a retail store when we were both 17. The first thing I noticed about Blake when we met was that he never smiled or showed any emotion. He always had a serious, stoned look on his face. Just imagine Eminem. Even when customers or our coworkers would try to joke with him, he never cracked a smile or laughed, which would make it awkward for them. However, Blake has always been respectful to those around him and never once raised his voice his whole career. Our coworkers always thought Blake was weird, and they warned me to avoid him. However, despite all that, Blake and I ended up becoming good friends. I never really minded that he never showed any emotions and still thought he was a good person. He even put up with my loud, extroverted self. I would occasionally see him laugh or smile, which I would lightly tease him about when it would happen. On my 22nd birthday, which is Valentine's Day, Blake had asked me to come over to his house and said it was serious. And when I got there, it was full of decorations and flowers, and Blake was dressed nicely. He gave a long speech about what our friendship meant to him and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. It was the first time I had seen Blake so vulnerable. He still had his cute, serious stone face on him, but I could tell he was extremely nervous. I, of course, said yes, and we've been a happy couple since. My best friend Sarah, 26F, and I have been friends since we were in 5th grade. She had never met Blake before. I, of course, talked about him and showed pictures. However, she once stated how she found it weird that he was never really smiling or seemed happy when he was around, when he was with me, and that I shouldn't be dating someone who doesn't want to be happy around me. I just assured her that's how he is and that he is a sweet guy. She recently came back to the city and wanted the 3 of us to meet. When we got there, Sarah and I ran to each other and squealed like little girls while Blake just stood there and watched. When Sarah looked at Blake, I noticed her expression immediately changed and she awkwardly smiled, shook his hand, and only said hi. Blake just nonchalantly said it was good to meet her. She then went back to talking to me, completely ignoring Blake. When we got our menus, Blake couldn't find a meal he would enjoy, and she said he would be fine with a smaller appetizer. Sarah unexpectedly said, "Why? Is nothing here good enough for you? Why would you even agree to come here if you weren't going to get anything then?" She tried to say it like it was a joke, but any person can tell it obviously wasn't. I then defended Blake, claiming that he could get whatever he wants. It's not a big deal. Sarah dropped it. Throughout our dinner, Sarah was ignoring Blake. Blake just stayed silent and watched us, not really caring about it, as he is normally not a big talker when meeting people. When she did include him, she would seemingly only ask him questions that would be one-word answer. And when he did answer, she would just give him a side eye or just say, "Okay, then." I could already tell Sarah did not like Blake. At one point, she excused herself to the bathroom, and when she left, I asked Blake if he was okay, and he assured me that he was and just wanted me to catch up with my friend. I apologized for how she was acting, and he claimed that he didn't care about it and was just happy I was with my friend. After dinner, the 3 of us went for a walk, and Sarah seemed to be more cheerful. We then came across a person walking a small puppy. Sarah and I cooed, and we were giggling at how cute the puppy was. Blake was just standing there watching us. Once the dog owner left, Sarah turned to Blake and immediately became angry and said, "How the fuck could you not even smile for a puppy? Are you seriously that soulless?"
Blake and Sarah. My God.
I was immediately shocked about her sudden change of tone and was about to say something, but Blake just shrugged and walked away. I asked her what the hell her problem was, and she immediately apologized and said she didn't mean to yell. Our walk then became awkward. I just wanted to go home, but I felt bad for Sarah as she still had something planned for us after our walk that she had paid for us to do. So I thought to just suck it up until it was over. I had to use the restroom, so we found a store nearby. I went in, and Blake and Sarah waited for me outside. When I came back, I found Sarah hysterically yelling at Blake. I immediately ran over to them and asked what the hell is going on. Sarah was in hysterics, but she kept yelling, "It's not going to happen. I will never let it happen." I asked her what she was talking about, but all she said was Blake was a sociopath and demanded I break up with him. I looked at Blake, who was just as shocked as I was. I kept trying to ask the both of them what had happened, but neither would answer me, which scared me. People started staring. I desperately tried calming Sarah down to de-escalate what was happening. Eventually, I told Blake to walk to the car so we could go home. Our car ride home was awkwardly silent, but as soon as we got home, I demanded to know what happened between them. He just stayed silent, and at this point, I was irritated with both of them for not answering my question. Blake said he couldn't say what happened, but that he was so sorry. That made me even more confused. He only said he swore he didn't do anything bad, but that he simply just couldn't say what happened. I then told him I was going to sleep in the guest room as I just couldn't handle it anymore. He said he understood and told me he loved me. An hour ago, I got a text from Sarah. She says, "I'm really sorry about what happened tonight, but please listen to me. You need to break up with Blake. He is a literal sociopath who is only using you. He doesn't deserve you. I'm telling you this because I love you and want to protect you. Please break up with him." I haven't responded to her text. I don't know if Sarah had said anything to Blake or if Blake had said something to Sarah that caused all this, but I'm scared that neither of them will tell me.
What the fuck happened?
They need to tell
No,
her.
they have to tell
Yeah.
her friend
I
has to tell
would
her.
break up with someone if they didn't tell me that, because that's such like a. I'd be like, if you can't tell me a dramatic, intimate moment that
When
is
my friend was sobbing.
when
I
my,
would be worried that he
did
did
something.
something
I was
to
like,
her.
I'd be like, I don't feel safe, and you need to tell me. You cannot
Yeah.
stay with someone if they withhold information from you.
Absolutely not. And her friend, as her friend, like needs to tell her too.
Yeah, I don't understand
Like,
why
why-
neither one of them will.
But then especially your boyfriend, especially if you see your best friend crying, like, okay, if you made my best friend cry, you need to like tell me what happened.
Yeah,
The fact
yeah,
that he
yeah.
said, "But I'm sorry." Because like even working up to that, I was like, listen, Sarah, you need to like kind of cool it. Like, yes, he does not seem like my type of person. I didn't like that.
But
Like,
you need to hold it together.
yeah, because it's like you might want your friend to be dating someone bubbly. It doesn't seem like, who's the writer's name?
Just OP.
OP has a problem with him being awkward.
I know. And
Yeah.
it's like, I think a lot of times we want obviously, we always want the best for our friends. And I think there's a lot of situations where you look at the people that they're dating and you're like, really? That's the one? Okay.
Really?
Got it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be your pick, but we all have different tastes. And I think as long as they're treating them well, then you have to just shut up.
That's exactly the thing. As long as you know that there's nothing that like this person is rude to her, hurting her, doesn't support her, whatever it is. Like you're like, okay, if like what goes on behind closed doors, if he makes her happy,
Yeah.
I kind of can't say anything until I know that there's like a problem, and then I can voice my concern.
Exactly. And it sounds like there really
Or if you
wasn't
see it with your own eyes.
any issues
No.
besides the fact that he's just like really weird.
Like he's not her personality type. Like your friend might be dating someone who's like over the top, where you're like, God, they're so annoying and they always have to have the
Yeah.
center of attention, or like they're extremely shy and awkward, and I hate that. But that it's not your relationship. So unless there's something like nefarious happening or damaging, it's not.
Also,
your
that's the first time they
relationship.
hung out.
Yeah, the
so
first
it's like
time. And
chill.
she
This is
already came in
with
like,
that attitude. Like she knew
yes.
that she wanted to fight.
Yes, and
Oh,
that's not
totally.
fair. You
Just
can't do
from
that.
photos. And your friend was telling you all this time, like how much she loved him and everything, always saying nice things about him. So
Yes.
she just came in fighting. She did not like, and I get that. I get that. Like, I think I've seen someone before who like the person like never smiles ever, and it's like, okay, maybe they just
It's
don't like the
frustrating.
smile in their photo or something.
It's
Like she just
awkward.
jumped to conclusions.
Yeah, and also, but I do think that there are some friends, and I hate this, who are like, I'm going to hate your boyfriend
No
until
matter
like,
what.
yeah, and like, why do people want to hate their friends' partners? I don't understand that.
No.
But people
I
will be
wanna
like
love
that because they
them.
feel like jealous, or they're like, there's some people are like, I don't like you until you prove yourself. Territorial.
Oh.
That's
And
crazy.
it's like,
We
you've
have to
gotta
be adult.
stop.
We have to be an adult.
Yes.
Or that whole like the first time they meet them, if you ever hurt them, I will
Yes.
kill you.
Oh my god.
Like
So
basically like waiting on your front
dramatic.
porch with a shotgun.
It's
Like,
so
oh my God.
stupid. It's so stupid.
It is. And that's like, it kind of seems like that's where her friend was like almost coming from.
And
Someone
she
said
was
that
just
too.
waiting for any little thing to happen.
Yes.
So it was a constant like,
Yes.
okay, he didn't like what was on the menu. It's okay.
Like, so don't talk about anyone's food choices
Yes.
at a dinner to
No
start. Like,
shaming.
just be a fucking normal person.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then just be there being
Like,
like, I'm
And
excited
not
to
everyone
meet.
likes dogs.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it was a
fine.
puppy.
I know.
It
Crazy.
was a puppy.
I mean,
I'd be
you
like,
guys.
damn. I'd talk shit about it after someone. I'd be like, their
Yes.
boyfriend seems very cold and maybe a little like a sociopath.
For sure, I would talk shit about like
Yes,
go
it's
back
just
to
like,
our
that was
mutuals and be
shocking.
like, he's weird as hell, but I guess he
Yes.
seems nice enough.
Exactly.
And he was like saying, she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for how she's treating you. And he was like, oh no, it's okay. Like, I'm just glad that you're with your friend. Like, he really does seem like a good guy.
I know.
Right.
But what did he do?
But what
No,
did,
what-
or
yeah,
is
what do you
she-
guys think?
But
Let's
she seems irrational. So I'm
hypothesize.
almost like, is she making something up?
Yes. And
Like, did she egg him on?
Yeah.
And then he said something. She's like, see, like she almost tried to catch him.
And then
Yeah,
is what
he
I'm
said,
thinking.
I'm sorry, because her friend was just like crying. And that's
Exactly.
like why he was like, I don't know. I'm sorry though.
And she
Like,
probably, the friend was probably like, do not tell her about this because
Yeah.
like that's breaking our trust. Like she
Mhm.
probably said something weird and he was like, okay.
Yeah. I need to know.
I need to know.
Well, we do have an update, but first
Oh.
there's just a little edit.
Okay.
First, to clarify some things, Blake is not a sociopath. For backstory, Blake and his father did not have a good relationship.
Oh.
All I will say is his father raised him to believe that men should show no emotion, and it's the reason why Blake is not an emotional person. There are, of course, times where he would laugh and smile and even cry. He just doesn't do it as much as the average person. Despite Blake being an emotionless person, he still has been very nice and respectful and loving towards me and has never been abusive or even raised his voice. I do not believe Sarah and Blake have ever interacted before they met tonight. Blake has to work today, so I will see him tonight. I'm not speaking. I'll speak to him first before I talk to Sarah. Yeah, because I think some commenters were like, do you think that they have like a relationship, like a backstory?
Wow.
Oh, interesting. Like
Maybe they had something going on and maybe they were hooking up beforehand.
Mm.
So
So
that's
funny
why
that-
she's like just
My
giving
God,
him
that'd
be
shit all
crazy.
night.
That'd
So
And
be-
funny
then
that
they had a little fight outside
Yeah.
and it came out, you know?
Blake's just at work and she's like, I'm figuring out our problems online right now. You know? Like, Blake's gonna be back from work in an hour. I will ask him.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Someone here says she obviously knows him and both are hiding things from you. It's unacceptable. Was he her ex or love interest? Maybe she hid it from you back then. OP says, I don't want to say this as I'm now not 100% sure, but as far as I'm concerned, they have never interacted or met before last night. She never showed any signs other than her being weirded out by him, but that's all I can think of.
I would have never even thought that they knew each other
No,
before.
that was not.
And if they
either.
did, that's such a betrayal from both your friend and your boyfriend
to not
tell
say that
you.
before getting dinner, the three of you to be like, by the way, we used to fuck.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, disgusting.
That's awful behavior.
Yeah.
What happened?
Okay, what happened?
Tell us.
Okay, the update. I sat him down and started by apologizing for walking away from him the night before and for not defending him more during the hangout. I assured him that I love him and trust him deeply and that I will believe whatever he says to me. Eventually, Blake told me what happened. Some of you guessed it right. Blake was planning on proposing to me. The way he described it was that when I left, he confided in Sarah that he was planning to and asked if she could help him choose a ring. Blake then said Sarah asked if he was being serious, and when he said he was, she started screaming and lashing out at him. She screamed at him, "This engagement will never happen. You don't deserve her." And that's when I came outside. To say I was beyond shock would be an understatement. I then hugged him and once again apologized and asked if that was the reason why he didn't want to tell me. And he said, yes, it was because I didn't want to ruin the surprise.
Makes sense.
Oh,
Makes sense.
how long have they been dating?
3 years.
Oh,
But
wow.
they're
That's
20.
the first time that they
They're
were.
But they're 20.
Oh, sweethearts. All right,
Yeah.
we can have a discussion about that at a different
I
time.
know.
Yeah.
That
He
was
then-
the first time he met his friend? Okay. Her friend?
Yeah, because I guess she did explain it, but I
Okay.
cut it
If
out.
she didn't
It
live on
was
the same
like,
state. Yeah.
yeah, she had moved away or something like that. He then apologized for not telling me, saying that it wasn't worth keeping it as a surprise if it was causing us problems. I told him it wasn't causing us any problems and I love him even more now. After a while, I finally turned on my phone and wish I hadn't. When Sarah said she wasn't going to let the engagement happen, she really meant it. I don't know how she could do this to me, but now she's got our friends, my sister, my aunt, and even my estranged father involved, which was a real low blow. After finally reading my family and
mentally unwell.
after finally reading my family and friends' messages, it sums up that Sarah had told them I'm with a sociopath and that I'm refusing to leave him, even when she, quote, tried to help. So now the people who once knew the sweet, loving Blake that I know think he is now a crazy person and are begging me to leave him. I am beyond furious. I spent the whole night trying to clear the air with everyone except my dad. Unfortunately, my aunt and some of my friends are still agreeing with Sarah, which is breaking my heart.
Okay.
That
That's
is
so manipulative and weird.
also,
Yeah.
I think it's really fucking weird if I was dating a guy for 3 years that my sister knew, and then all of a sudden one of my friends was like, he's a sociopath, she needs to leave him. My sister would be like, hey,
Okay,
I
wait
just
a
got a
minute.
call. She wouldn't be
Yeah.
like, you need to leave him.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
simmer
true.
it down,
That's
Sarah.
so weird that like all of a sudden her family, and it seems like they knew him.
Is turning just
Mhm.
because one comment from
from her friend
who never even
who-
met doesn't know him?
It sounds like maybe they already were kind of feeling a certain way about him just because he is a little bit of an odd guy. But that's why
Mhm.
it's like you can't judge a book by its cover, you know? Like you can't judge how they're going to act around people that they don't know that
Yeah.
well. She's obviously, but it's kind of like when you're looking for something to be true, you'll take any
God,
little
that's so
thing. So now
true.
they heard that and they're like, oh my God, I had a feeling. I had a feeling.
Well, I hope that this OP is also being like completely honest about their relationship. And if they are, and that's all we have to go off of, then it's like, again, you can't like, you might not like their personality, but it is what it is. I hope it's not like he is actually a little,
yeah,
that her
yeah.
family is,
Right.
you know.
Because it's almost like if everyone is feeling this way, it is like, well, damn.
I
Like that
know.
also sucks that your friends and family all feel fearful of
I
this
couldn't
proposal.
do it. That's
Yeah.
the worst feeling ever, to feel like all of your friends and family don't like the person you're
I
dating.
know.
Like,
There's only so much like defending you can do, you
Yeah.
know, because then it's like you're like disrespecting me now,
Mhm.
Yes.
kind of, because
Well-
you're not taking my word for it. But also like not every personalities are gonna gel,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and
true.
it does suck. A lot of times you have to be around your friends or family's partners where you're just like,
Like, they're
oh
so
my God, I
annoying.
can't stand them.
Yeah. Or like cold or yeah.
or too
And it's
much.
like,
Yeah.
and also
much.
like, don't bring them around me. I want to hang out with you. I don't want to hang out with your fucking
Well,
partner.
people need to realize sometimes there's a time and place.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like, and
That's
that's just
so
something
They're
true.
that
not
you
always
like.
invited.
No. And like, we're so past that. That's like when in high school and you like bring your boyfriend, people are like, what the fuck?
Bring them everywhere. They're like, this is a girl's night.
We cannot be doing
No,
that in
no,
our
no,
30s.
No.
What's that? There was like a Real Housewives of New York thing.
Simon
right?
and Alex.
Simon?
Simon was always at the girls' nights. It was
And
ridiculous.
like, who
Oh,
called him out?
Ramona.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
And she was like, you know what? Then I'm going to leave if he's here.
Yes.
Also, that happened on
I'm going out.
OC with Gretchen and Slate.
Yes.
Gretchen would bring Slate like everywhere, and Vicky then ended up leaving.
It's also awkward when
Mm.
like your friends ask, hey, we're like, hey, the girls are going to get dinner. And then they ask like, hey, can I bring my boyfriend? It's like, well, I think you already know the answer to that.
The
Now
girls.
And then what
Yeah.
the hell am I
Keyword.
supposed to say?
Yes, because now you're not, I mean, you can't say, and you should be like, honestly, it is just the girls,
Yeah.
but you feel uncomfortable. And you want, like, especially if it's new, you want them to feel like welcome.
Yeah,
Just don't even ask. Like,
totally.
go hang with your girls.
I don't think I've ever asked that in my life.
No, I would never ask.
Like, I'm just like, no, I want to
I
go
don't
with the
subject
girls.
my friends to having to hang out with him. that often.
Girl time is sacred.
It is,
And it
uh,
changes having a man. It just does.
It really does.
No, and he knows it. Like we both are just like, oh, this is a boys' night. Oh, it's a girls' night.
That's
Like,
a
we
great,
totally get
independent,
it.
healthy relationship.
Yes. And like, why would you want to go hang out with the girls? And like, why would the girl want to go hang out with it? Well, I do want to see what's going on there. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I'm like, how is it going?
Well, she did text Sarah back.
yeah.
She answered her one time and she said, I don't understand how you expect me to, quote, take your side when you never told me why you said what you said. Blake had already told me what happened and I can't even imagine what your side is. I can't believe you fucking lied to our friends and my family. And for you to involve my dad, how the fuck do you even have his number? Above all, you
That's fair.
disrespected my relationship and my boyfriend. Fuck you.
Wow.
Honestly, I think
I
I'd say
love
the same
it.
thing at that point.
Same.
I'm like, you ruined my proposal. You're getting my
Yes.
family involved.
Such a good point.
You
Yeah,
know, like,
fuck
what the
that.
hell? And for
Yeah.
what?
And the
He didn't
poor
do
guy
anything
was
to
just
you.
trying to ask you to help pick out a ring.
Yes.
Like, because he knows how important you are to her. Like,
That makes so much sense of why they both said, like, we can't tell you why. That's so sad.
I know that's
for
like, yeah, that-
her.
Which honestly, when I first read this, because she says it's not going to happen, I will never let this happen. I like thought in my head, oh, I think he's asking her
I didn't think about that. I was
to
like, what's happening?
I know, I
if
didn't
she'll
think about
propose. But
that.
then like I forgot about it. Like once the rest of it was going on, I'm like, Jesus, like what
I
happened?
know.
Yeah.
It's like one of those riddles, you know, that's like a scuba diver ended up in the forest.
Yeah.
How did they get here? And you're like, what?
How did they get here? Yes, totally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Juicy as hell, though.
Sucks.
I know. He seems like a really great guy who, again, was victim of the fucking patriarchy where his damn father is just like, boys don't
Told
show
him to
emotion.
zip it.
Well, that's the villain in all these stories. Zip it. It's the patriarchy, really.
I know.
That's
and it's
really-
not the men. Everyone's always saying we're villainizing the men. We're not villainizing you. We're villainizing the patriarchy who
Literally.
then turned y'all into that.
And if you're sensitive about that, that says more about you
Yes.
than anything else.
The
Like,
patriarchy doesn't benefit men or women.
No.
So,
oh, benefits no one.
yeah.
And who set that up? Did you ever
men.
see that?
No. What is
There's
that?
like a video of they're arguing. It's like a political video or something. And he says something about like how men are affected by it too. And she goes, well, who set that up?
Yeah.
Something like that. It's so good.
Literally,
It's
though.
true.
My God.
See some
Yeah, he was
reflective.
like he was saying like
Yeah,
the
just
men are the
reflect.
victim. I don't know. It was.
Oh, it's
I'll
like,
post
yeah,
it. I'll
men are
post it.
suffering right now. We
Yeah.
don't talk about it enough. Men are suffering right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And
Oh, I'm
who
so
set
sorry.
that up? Well, she does ask at the end, I just don't know how to go about this. How can I convince my friends and my aunt that Blake is a good person? Should I somehow get Sarah to admit she was lying?
Oh, God, honey, don't go that far.
No, you can't do it.
Now you're just in charge, responsible for yourself and your relationship. Don't involve Sarah anymore.
You're not responsible for anyone else's feelings. All you can do to your family, I feel like, is say, I'm really shocked by her reaction.
Mhm.
I need you to trust me in my relationship that I am happy and this is someone I love and I would really love your support in that. That's all you can say.
Yeah.
And also make the decision. If you're like, my family's not going to welcome him and my friends don't, do I want that life too? Even if I do love him, like, do I want this to be a constant thing with my family? Just
Such a
kind
good
of make
point.
a
It also-
decision.
Yeah, it just sounds like it wasn't beforehand. That's why
Right.
it's just like this fucking meddling friend who's got her
Disgusting.
own vendetta.
Again, yeah, I'd say like, you can't control that.
Yeah, this is the reality now. I agree. So you just have to decide, like,
It
if I'm going to
happened.
present to them and they're still not going to respect my relationship, then do I want to be with someone? Can I do it?
Yeah, because you can't be like,
There's
let's bring her back in here and have her say like, no.
And there's no right or wrong for her. It's whatever works for
Yeah.
her. I would never want that, but that's not my relationship.
You would never want.
To be in a relationship where I have been, where I
Oh.
know that my friends and family don't
Family
like
don't
it, and
like
I will
them.
never, ever, ever do that again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even if you were like head over heels for them,
Oh, if I was head over heels for them, but I don't think I would be head over heels for someone
someone.
that my friends and family all hated.
well, I feel like it like leaks into your psyche, like either
Yes.
way, you know.
Yeah.
So it does, but which can be toxic because sometimes people, your friends and your family, as much as you love them, sometimes are speaking from just their own like egos and
Yes.
who they would want their daughter to be with, who they would want their friend to be
Totally.
with, who they want their
Totally.
sister to be with. And it's like, okay, well, that's your opinion.
Totally. That's what everyone's friends and family are different. My family would literally, unless I was in danger, like with my ex, they never told me they did not like him until after. And
But
like
you
they
like
I just like sensed it, but I think I sensed it because I didn't like him.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying? So like I feel like that's what I was sensing. They were always very welcoming, very nice. And then afterwards they were like, I mean, yeah. Everyone's family is different because there are those families that will like right away be like, no, I don't like him. And like that's not fair.
Yeah, my family's never done that either.
No, don't do that to
no,
people.
no, you can't. You got to give them a shot.
Yeah.
Yes.
My family never even said like we knew that he was gay.
and
They never said that.
that's the kind thing.
And
you
I was
know?
really looking back, I'm like, wow, not one person even like tried to touch that conversation.
Wow.
Yeah, no, they didn't. Even my gay brother was like, I didn't even want to.
Oh,
I don't know. Sweet man.
that's love, you know?
Interesting.
It's like, again, when you break up with someone, you don't want to hurt them more by being like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you can't say anything, at least for a little while.
Yeah, for a little
I think you
while.
gotta like give it a few months.
I think
and
so,
then you can
too.
slowly start because, as you were saying earlier, like you don't want to insult the person. And be
I
like,
know.
Yeah, well, he's
It's-
fucking ugly, so.
Yeah.
I know.
Like, okay, well, I was having sex with him for 4 years.
Yeah,
But
I think you have to like mimic what they're doing. If they're like, fuck that piece of
Yes.
shit, then you're like, yep, fuck him. If they're like, yeah, it was a bad relationship, like then don't come aggressive.
Yeah.
You kind of have to,
But
which is,
all-
it's something I've learned too. Like I haven't always been perfect.
And then
with
there's
that.
also those other situations too where you do have to like almost wake them up though and be like, look what he's doing to you. He's taking advantage of you. He's doing all
Yeah.
this. He's blah, 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 like going off in that way because it's like, you need to wake up. You're not
Mhm.
seeing it.
I know. And that's always hard because some people, I mean, I had that with a friend and she did stop talking to me because of it.
Yeah.
And I was literally like, he has sexually harassed and hit on women.
Oh.
He is terrible to you. I have found out rumors that he's been cheating on you. And she was like, you're jealous and we're never speaking again. So
Shit.
sometimes you really can't even
Were they
coming
still
forth-
together though, or were
Oh,
they
they're
breaking
still
they're
up?
together.
getting married.
Oh.
And that was my
He
best
did
friend
that
of 10
to
years.
all of us. Like,
Oh, he sexually harassed all of
Oh,
us
I think
and
you
bullied
told me about
us.
this
And I
before.
came in just being like, I'm going to finally say it all after 10 years of holding it in. I
Mhm.
was like, I'm going to say exactly how I feel because I also deserve it. He's not kind to me personally.
Yes. Good
And
for
she
you.
was like, you are just pretending to be a feminist. I was like,
Oh boy.
yeah, yikes.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think after 10 years you have the
Yeah,
the go ahead to
I was
say
like-
stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's finally okay to call it out. But some people are so deep in it that they are just, they're going to turn it around and be like, you're jealous or you just don't want to support me or whatever
Well,
you
then
tell
some
yourself.
people then also get mad and are, because it's such a tricky thing, they get upset and they're like, why didn't you ever say anything to me? And it's like, well, fuck, I
Oh,
didn't know how to.
She did that to me too. She was like, so 10 years you've been holding this in? Like, that's not a good friend. And I was like, I actually have. And you just couldn't even,
You,
like,
yeah,
you would
you weren't even
completely.
hearing me.
It's so also hard to bring that up with someone where you're like, when is it my? It's so
No, it's so
complicated.
hard because you're like, I can't just say everything how I feel. I always was kind of like, I'm going to say it if it personally affected me.
Yes.
And like, that's how I've always
that's a
been
good
with my
time
friends,
to do
partners. Like,
it.
okay, now it's like he hurt my feelings.
Mhm.
But if it's like, you kind of just have to be like, I wish you deserve better than this behavior. But you
Mhm.
can't even sometimes say you deserve better because then that like implies that such a fine line.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, because you're trying not to insult them at the same time.
Exactly. And you don't want them to be like, you suck. And like, now
And
we're
then,
not
yeah,
friends anymore, you know?
If you
So-
choose that person, you feel awkward. Like, how could I ever have them around in the
exactly.
same place?
Oh, thank God we're out of that, you
No
know?
kidding.
Thank God we're out of that.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you guys so much for listening. Tell them where they can find you.
We are Right Answers Mostly. We are on Instagram and TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere you listen to podcasts at Right Answers Mostly. Please subscribe on Spotify or iTunes. Give us a little rating and follow us on social media. And we
Yeah.
have premium channel as well. You get 3 bonus episodes a month for $7.99. And yeah, come over and listen. Listen to Shannon's episode on Mary Kay Letourneau.
Yep.
This was so fun. I love talking about drama. It was such a little trip down memory lane, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Our love story.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. And remember, you can't spell drama without D.
Sorry about the edit you're going to have to do.
Well, I have a 6-hour plane ride tomorrow.
Oh,
so that's what I'll be
perfect.
doing.
Oh, God.
I'll be fucking cursing your name
Yeah.
probably up there.
I'll feel it from the sky.